Hi mamas, this is Tiffany and welcome to Postpartum Record. This week is week 8 of my postpartum journey and I am getting ready to head back to work. It's kind of a mixed bag of emotions for me. On the one hand, I'm looking forward to getting back to work, getting back into a routine schedule, seeing my work colleagues and friends, working on projects that I've been working on for years, months, just having a adult conversation again. And then on the other hand, I'm really bummed about leaving little man. He has been such an awesome baby. It's been such a great experience to have the last 8 weeks to bond with him, watch him grow. He's starting to coo and caw, giving me some social smiles. So right now I'm just soaking up all the baby snuggles that I possibly can in anticipation of having to give him up during the daytime. We're fortunate to have a daycare facility that we love. Sweet Pea goes there, and they're affordable. They take really great care of our kids, and the communication is stellar. So, like I said, we're pretty fortunate. The decision to return to work or stay at home full-time with your kids is an intensely emotional decision for mamas and their families. There's no right or wrong answer here. It really just depends on your situation. I know there's some moms that can't wait to get back to work and don't want to stay home with their children, and there are other mamas on the other end of the spectrum that can't stand the thought of going back to work and absolutely have to stay home with their children. It's your choice, it's your decision. Ultimately, you have to do what's best for you, your baby, and your family overall. If you're contemplating returning to work or staying at home with your child, there's a lot of things that you have to take into consideration. Affordability is probably the major contributing factor, and that was also something that we had to take into account when my husband and I were discussing whether or not I was going to return to work. In our household, my husband, he works full-time, he's self-employed, and I also work full-time as well, but I'm the one who carries the insurance and all of the benefits that go along with my full-time job. Financial ability is probably one of the key contributing factors to making your decision on whether to return to work or be able to stay at home with your kiddos. In reality, in today's world, it doesn't necessarily have to be the mom that's the one that stays home with the children. It could necessarily be the spouse, the partner, whoever else in the household that is able and has the desire to stay home with kids. It's quite likely that mom goes back to work full time and somebody else stays home with kiddos. That's fantastic. Like I said, it's whatever works best for your family and your situation. When my husband Dan and I sat down to have the conversation about whether I went back to work or wanted to stay home with the kids, money obviously was the big contributing factor. So we sat down and we asked ourselves 3 basic questions. And I'll share those questions with you and kind of walk through how we answered them together. Hopefully answering these same 3 questions will help you decide if you can return to work or stay at home with your kiddos. Question number 1. What are our current monthly income and expenses? My husband Dan and I, we have been living debt-free and on a budget for over 8 years. So this was really easy for us to answer. We already had all the information in front of us. We sit down at the beginning of the month, before the month, and we go over how much we expect to have coming in and how much we expect to have going out in expenses. This includes all of our utilities, daycare expenses, vehicle expenses, groceries, dining out. But if you're not accustomed to living life on a budget, this is probably going to be a big step for you. It's going to take some work to gather all the information you need to be able to determine how much you have realistically coming in each month and what your spending habits are. What are your expenses? Where's your money going each month? So if you have never created a budget, if creating a budget sounds super scary to you and you have no idea where to begin, don't worry, you're not alone. There are actually a lot of resources out there for you to help you along the way. And the other thing is, I don't want you to think that creating a budget is a bad thing. It's restrictive. I know that there's a lot of negative connotation around the word budget, but ultimately all it is, it's you writing down your income, writing down your expenses, and figuring out where your money is going. As I mentioned, there are so many resources to help you create a budget nowadays. You can go old school and get out a pen and paper and write everything down, or you can go the other route, which is how Dan and I create our monthly budget, and we just use an Excel spreadsheet. It's nothing fancy. But if you're more technologically savvy, there are lots of budgeting apps that they have out there nowadays. All you have to do is do a Google search and you'll find a bunch of them. So feel free to check out some of these resources to help you get kind of a rough draft of a budget together to see what your financial snapshot is. And then you can move on to question number 2. Can we reduce our income and still be able to cover our expenses? If the answer is yes, then that's fantastic. You're doing a great job. You're living on less than you bring in, and that gives you a ton of opportunities here. Now, if you want, you can evaluate to figure out, okay, is it possible for one of the household members to stay at home full time and give up that monthly income completely, or that annual income completely? Or if that's not quite possible, maybe you can reduce your work hours. So instead of working 40 hours a week, you reduce it to 32 or 35 or 30 hours a week, which is what Dan and I have decided to do. He's going to continue to work full time because, like I said, he's a business owner. He is self-employed. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to go down to a reduced work schedule. So it allows me to have an extra day at home with the kiddos. And that's just the option that we were most comfortable with. And another option is if you don't have the ability to reduce your work hours, you could look at getting a part-time job or maybe seasonal work. That's another great option. A third option would be to become a business owner, stay at home with your kids and work from home, be a mompreneur, as the buzzword goes. There's lots of women out there that are doing this, whether it's through blogging or being virtual assistants, to a variety of other stay-at-home jobs that allow women or men, if the dad is staying at home, to have a flexible work schedule so that they are available for their children during the day and that they can work whatever hours that they need to throughout the day to be able to generate revenue as an income source. Question number 3. So if you find that you don't have enough income at the end of the month to cover all of your expenses, then you have to be asking yourself, is there any way that we can adjust our spending habits to be able to cover our expenses and really realistically reduce them so that we have monthly income coming in left over so that one of us can stay home? This changing your spending habits is tough, not gonna lie, but you're in luck because there's lots of ways to do this. It's fully customizable to your family situation. There's tons of resources online for you to look into as well to give you tips and strategies on basically how to live frugally, live on less than you earn. There are books, websites, blogs, apps, Pinterest boards devoted to this single topic. So there you have it. Those are the 3 questions that we recommend that you ask yourself as you are going through the process of determining whether or not you can go down to a single income household. Like I said, if you have the desire and want to do it, great. If not, if you want to continue to stay working full time, that's fantastic too. You go, mama. Like I said, there's no wrong answers. It's all about you and what's best for you and your family. I'm so glad you're watching, and I hope to see you again soon. Take care.